Hi, this is Ken with ASM, and today we're going to look at a new feature in Hydrasynth 2.0. That is our new Step LFO Step Advance mode. In previous versions of Hydrasynth, we introduced the Step LFO in our wave selection of the LFO. Here's an example of what Step LFO sounds like when routed to pitch. Now, with the new addition of one-shot step mode, we give you the freedom to advance your step LFO per key press. In this example, I'm going to sequence pitch, but I want to illustrate exactly how the LFO interacts with our voice structure. In this LFO here, we have trigger sync is single, and what that means is for all the voices, we're using just one LFO. Our voice structure right now is in rotate, which means as I press a note, I'm stepping through these pitches. However, if I turn my trigger sync to poly, that means that there is now an LFO per voice. So what will happen here is as I trigger a note, the next step will not be triggered until I trigger that original voice again. You can hear that here. So as I've stepped through all 16 voices, I'm now on the next step, and now these voices will all be the same step as well. We can change this also by going to alter mode. Now alter means as I press a single note, I'm going to re-trigger the same voice. However, if I hold down more than one voice, that will be a subsequent voice to follow it. Now watch what happens when I hold a second voice. Notice how those voices are changing independently. But if I move the trigger sync back to single, now all of these voices are going to change together. So as you can see, this is a quite flexible technique to use, and getting to know how these LFOs will interact with your voice structure is very important. Alright, so let's get into some other examples on how we can use Step LFO Step Advance mode. Here I've set up some macros that are each doing a different sort of modulation from the Step LFO. The first is pitch, which you've already heard, but let's check out wave. What wave is going to allow us to do is step through different wave shapes on oscillator 1. Now I have the voice in mono right now so that we're going to hear a different wave shape on each key press. Where this becomes interesting is when I go into poly, I can then have a different wave shape per voice. My trigger sync on the Step LFO is also poly, so that means I have a separate LFO at a separate step on each voice. Let's change this to alter. Using that same principle, we can also do things like change a modulation amount of another LFO. So with wave mod, what I've done is I'm actually controlling other LFOs from a step LFO. Let's turn this up and you'll hear how oscillator 2's wave scan will be manipulated by our step LFO. You'll hear that my middle note here is actually barely modulating. This note here has got a bit more. Quite a bit more here. So we get different modulation amounts per voice there. In a similar fashion, I've set up panning. Let's take a listen to what happens here. You're going to hear not only the pan change with the depth of the panning, but also the rate of that panning. This can be really useful with some reverb and delay, of course. Now let's take a listen to this other macro that I have set up called Slop. Now Slop is doing a whole lot. What we have is our Step LFOs are modulating everything from pitch detuning, filter amount, filter envelope amount, envelope attack times, envelope release times. We can put this all on a single macro, all being controlled from Step LFOs in Step Advanced mode, so that per voice I'm getting different manipulations here. Let's listen to it without Slop on first. Now with Slop. And we can dial in how much of this effect we want. So as you can see, Step LFO can create many, many beautiful modulations, and really it's up to you to decide how you want to use it. If you have any further questions, please visit the ashensoundmachines.com website or check us out on Facebook and join our official Hydrasynth Facebook group.